how
find it
this,
online if
Yeah.
people want to protest something and they're not a neighbor to it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
actually, maybe they're, how are these here? We got,
Sorry, I had so many last minute things come in.
yeah, well, not sure what we got going
Were you
here.
passing
Yeah, so
that,
these
or?
were two emails that came in.
Okay,
Yeah, pass it on. So the two emails.
I know this is
and
gonna
that was
sound silly.
included with the email,
This is my
one of
kid's
which was
iPad,
sent. And it's
and
just
I don't know how to make
Had
it
it fixed in
stay
the
up.
raise them up.
Do you know how these
Seems
work?
kind of clumsy, doesn't it?
I don't know how this
They
works.
can raise it.
No, it does. He does it every day. I just don't know. I'm not the, see, I don't feel as bad now. See,
I'm not
okay,
techie either, so that's
there
tough.
we go.
Yeah.
So I don't
It's not
feel.
just you.
Aha! I did it. Okay, why isn't the internet working?
I'm not sure what we do with this.
I can't get the freaking internet to work. No matter what I do, I'll get this stuff. I thought we already approved this one.
Like, I think it was like the, yeah. Are we ready? Okay. Good evening. I'm calling to order the October 19th, 2022 meeting of the Planning and Sunnyvale Planning and Zoning Commission. The first order of business is for public comments, and these public comments are for citizens that wish to come forward and speak to any matter except for matters that are not on the agenda for this evening. And if you are interested in doing so, please come forward, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. There will be a time during the actual presentation of each of the agenda items for comment at that time as well, but this time is for for items not specifically related to the agenda. Do we have anything online?
I don't do online.
We don't do online? Okay.
No, we do not do online anymore.
Okay. The next item, order of business is the consent agenda items, which we have two of. The first are the minutes from the August 16th, 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting. And the second item is the final plat for 82 lot zone plan development totaling 110.75 acres, located generally at 436 and 438 Nance Road. That's case 1761, and that's the Stony Creek 5C and 5D. Do members have any questions for these consent agenda items?
I would like to pull the number 2 from the consent agenda and move it to the regular agenda to discuss.
Okay, do we need to just
Make a motion.
make a motion for that? Okay,
I make a motion.
we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, we will move item 2 to regular agenda. Going back up, first I need to mention who's present. We do have a quorum present, myself and members King Moss, Lisa Burton, Ted Mays, and Carly Hagan. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda, the minutes for the August 16, 2022? If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? We have 5 in favor. Okay, so we would now move to the second item that has been pulled, and that's the case 1761 regarding Stony Creek 5C and 5D final plat. What did
On this particular item, I wanted to make it to where, by moving it to the regular agenda, anyone who wishes to speak on it would now be able to come up and speak, correct? Or after we discuss?
I believe we can have a public comment on it.
So it is on discussion action currently. Y'all can ask that, it be opened up to a public forum if you would like.
Okay.
Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, that's appropriate.
Okay. Would the members like to open it up to public comment? Do we need to take a vote on that as well?
I do not think so.
All right, we will open this item up for public comment. Is anybody present who would like to speak about the final plat for Stony Creek 5C and 5D? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Paul Van Meter, 540 Nance Road. So I'm the property to the east of this, and looks like there's been changes, and I was not notified of tonight's meeting. So we've had no time to review this, no time to prepare. Whenever I've asked for changes, I've always had to notify the neighbors and give time for opposition or support.
Okay,
I ask the same be done here.
I'll turn that over to the town, but I believe because this is a final plat and there's only minor adjustments that it did not need to come back before, and this is on the consent agenda, which we pulled it from. But if you would speak to that, please.
Yes, sir. There's regulations within the UDO that define minor and major adjustments to preliminary to final plat. Everything that is within this final plat was a minor change and therefore would not have to go back through the preliminary plat process. The only plat that needs to be noticed for is a residential plat, a residential replat, in which case this is just a final plat. It's not a residential replat.
So changing the flow of water isn't something that would require notice to the neighbor that's getting the water changed on them?
No, sir.
I think we need to reconsider before you approve or disapprove. This just got put on today. I was given this. No notice at all. it does change the volume and velocity of water onto my property.
Okay.
And it, I don't think anybody would, Lyle, does it change volume and velocity?
Am I allowed to make a response? Because that's not really a function of a plat.
You're approving something,
Lyle, will you please turn on your mic?
we're approving something here that has a negative effect on my property.
Okay, just let me repeat what I said, because I know not everybody may have heard it, and I do apologize. My voice is a little bit hoarse, so I would ask everybody to please bear with me on that. The question I had asked is, am I allowed to make a response in a meeting where we were considering a plat? Because the question does not really have a bearing on the final plat before y'all tonight, in my opinion. But I'm not saying I'm not going to answer the question. I just want to be sure that it's appropriate for me to do so in this setting.
I think we'll have to ask the town attorney on that.
Mr. Chair, Commission and staff, if the question doesn't relate to the actual drawing of the final plat, then it's not something that the commission could use to either approve or deny the approve with conditions or deny for reasons this plat. So if it's not relevant to the drawing of the lots, then it's not relevant for the commission to consider under state law.
Well,
So it sounds like it's a matter of construction plans versus, if I'm right, versus the final plat. And tonight, the only thing that the Planning and Zoning Commission is reviewing is the final plat.
well, and to answer this is kind of why I want to discuss this. Lot 6X was originally presented to council and to this Planning and Zoning Commission as having a potential for 2 drainage easements on Lot 6. At the time, no one disclosed to everyone that there was a wetland there. On this current plat that we're reviewing today, Lot 6, that has been removed and the drainage changed. It also is going to affect all the future homeowners of Stony Creek will be liable and responsible once this transfers to the HOA in 3 or 4 years. The resulting maintenance of Lot 6 and all the drainage and therefore any drainage issues that result from Lot 6 will fall on the HOA legally if there's damage from that. That's kind of, I think, addresses something has changed potentially on the layout of one of the lots.
So the town staff already said that this falls under the minor amendment to the preliminary plat.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that's how it was reviewed and processed. So it didn't have to go back through the preliminary plat stage or the other stage.
Correct.
So tonight, the commission's job is to review the final plat, and the staff is recommending approval. You're looking at the map that's on the screen right now and making a determination that the plat, as drawn, complies with all of the requirements of the town's UDO. And the staff is recommending approval of that. The drainage issue that you raised, that would be a function of the construction plans and not this plat drawing. But so long as it meets all requirements of the UDO, the Planning and Zoning Commission under state law has to approve it.
Okay, so then, Philip, when this developer negotiated this, the trails and the dedicated green space, this is modifying the usable green space that they dedicated to the town, that the HOA will then have to maintain. I'm just trying to let all the board members here know and the record people can see when they move into this neighborhood, they're thinking there's a 6-acre enjoyable green space. There's not. There is no green space. it's gonna be all detention, mosquito swamp infested. And I think we're getting the short end of the stick. The town's people,
The
the neighbor, anybody who's downstream. We're not, if you look at this, the detention area currently shown was supposed to be a half acre of the 6 acres. It is now 1.33 acres. How is the town, how does this change? I understand that it was discussed internally with town staff, but I'm trying to understand how this benefits the residents of the town of Sunnyvale to allow the modification of this green space from an enjoyable potential 6 acres with a half acre on one side and half acre on the other of detention to now 1.33 acres in one location. And then if you, what I would like all y'all to look at, in the bottom right corner, it says PDE. Could you zoom in on that for me and show them down there where all the way to the right. Right there, in that corner of lot 6. That is gonna be where the water that drains is gonna shoot out there on this side as well. And there's gonna be a berm of some sort that is gonna be supposed to be constructed to protect Mr. Van Meter and Mr. Van Meter's property. That water is gonna then, if I understood the emails earlier, Lyle, is gonna be then redirected west and then down to the wetlands area.
I would say in generally a northwesterly direction until it gets into the wetlands area. But it would stay on lot 6X until it gets into the wetlands area.
Okay, so this entire 6 acre space is gonna be used as one giant drainage for this developer, is what wanted everyone to see. As a town who keeps asking more and more of trails and usable space for families, parks, here's 6 acres that was approved and renegotiated with the developer because the land would not fit for what they intended it to do. Originally, it was, I guess unbeknownst to them, that they had a wetland area, that they can't, there's some building restrictions for them in that wetland area. And instead of eating into one of their own lots, which they could easily have done, created a proper detention area on one of the lots that wasn't part of the green space. I guess that's where I would like to understand how they were able to negotiate working this current layout that was agreed upon without having to use some of their own land to accommodate the original detention drawing plans. Was that discussed with this
So-
developer?
So what was originally approved was a preliminary plat that showed a minimum of 1.17 acres of open space. And then now what you're seeing here is a design that does have that 1.17 acres of open space within the development. So that's where we're coming from.
But are you able to pull up the previous one so that everyone can see what? I understand the usage of the space. I understand that they decided they're only willing to give up this amount of land to make it work for whatever they need to do. What I don't understand is how come the town was not able to push back against this decision to say, no, what's best for the town is you create a second detention area independent of this property. That's what I would like clarity on, why they were not required to do that.
Lyle, would you like to chime in on that?
I guess my response to that would be that our Unified Development Ordinance requires the developer to construct detention in such a way that they do not increase the net runoff from their property to downstream properties during up to a 100-year storm event. And this design, as was approved for construction, and I realize, again, this is only a plat, this is not a construction plan set, but the plat is consistent with the the approved construction plan set. And the design that they submitted meets the requirements that the town has in place for detention.
Well, I think at this point, will there be a point to address the construction issues later after this approval of this primary plat? I mean, this final plat, excuse me.
Well, it would depend on which construction issues you're referring to. Again, the design is submitted conforms to the town's requirements.
Okay.
So in that regard, there wouldn't be anything to change. Now, if this project is completed, as with any project, there is a 2-year maintenance period, and if it's found that there is a deficiency in the construction due to them not putting something in correctly, they're required to change that at their own expense. But again, as far as the design goes, what has been designed meets our ordinances.
Okay. At this point, I think for the commission, we need to move on, because I think there's not anything more for us to do at this point, if I'm correct, than.
I just want to go on record
Sure.
that, number one, I'm opposed to it only because I wasn't notified. And I don't think that proper consideration has been, I mean, it's moving water from one location to a different location. But if it was along our rules for notification, we need to change the rules.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, we'll close the public comment period. Commission, did you have any additional questions for town staff? Or at this point, I think it's time we have a motion to approve this, because I think we're required essentially to approve this because it's an administrative function for us at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would that be to approve or just vote on it, which is?
The commission it needs to take action on this.
Okay, yeah.
Are we able to table it for council?
So final plats typically only require P&Z approval, based off of the review process that we have in place. I do not know the process in order to have council look at that.
I guess I'm concerned, is staff pretty sure or sure that there will be no drainage problems that this gentleman has indicated that he is concerned about, or one of our members is concerned about? I mean, and I guess along with that idea, is there any problem about delaying this action until we get the final answers, till we get better answers? I don't know, I just don't feel good about approving something I've got questions about.
Well, as far as any kind of tabling it to council, I can't speak to that. Again, what I would say is, this project as designed meets our requirements. They have stormwater detention in place. There are erosion protection measures in place. Now, if those erosion protection measures are damaged during storm events, which can and does happen, they're required to repair those. And so I guess if you have something specific you'd like to ask about, I'm happy to answer any questions. But, and again, all I can say is the design that their consultant has approved and sealed meets our requirements. And again, that includes not creating any drainage issues downstream. Now, if something happens in the future due to deficiency of the design on the consultant's part, they would be liable for that. But again, the design, as shown and as approved, meets the requirements.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that the town's UDO provides a process for the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve a final plat. It does not get appealed to, there's no process for the town council to
Okay.
approve final plats or review them. And it says that the Planning and Zoning Commission should review the subdivision regulations against the final plat drawing, and the staff has done that for you. The town staff is here, and they have determined that the plat meets all requirements.
Right.
If the Planning and Zoning Commission wants to take a different action, such as approve with conditions or deny with reasons, you have to identify a specific section of the UDO that is not complied with on the plat, and the staff is saying that that meets all requirements. I just wanted to make that reminder.
Okay.
And also, plats need to be acted on within 30 days after they're filed. So there's that other time constraint that the commission has.
So, again, back to this being an administrative function, then we need, essentially, we're required to approve it because the staff has assured us that it meets all the UDO requirements,
That's right, yes, that's correct.
unless somebody can identify a specific UDO requirement that it does not meet, and they want to challenge. Okay.
Correct.
Any other comments? If not, I think we need to move to approve this.
Did they, when they submitted this, I guess your question about within the UDO, that it would not increase the volume or velocity of water, they proved that beyond a reasonable doubt.
The plans do show that, yes, the plans do contain technical data and calculations based on industry standard and our ordinances that show that there is no net increase in runoff to downstream properties up to a 100-year storm.
Now, I know the net runoff, but I'm just thinking back, I'm literally just thinking back to, what has it been, 40 days since we've had rain? Again, and the 10 inches of rain we did get, which was a 100-year event. 4 weeks after that, I visited Mr. Van Meter's property, and his lake still looked like the Red River from all the siltation that occurred from that last rainstorm. And that's without all this other construction. And it just, I find it, just looking at it, understanding that the math and the models say it's going to do one thing, but I saw with my own eyes what happened to his property. I mean, literally, you could stick your hand in the water and you couldn't see your hand. A lake that you could usually see 6 feet down into the water column and had no visibility. And that's without roads. That's literally without roads. That's just dirt right now. I really, really, really hope, for the sake of the town and legal counsel, that all those I's have been dotted and T's have been crossed, because it did not pass the eye test to me.
Anything else? All right, do we have a motion? I'll move to approve the consent agenda item that's been moved to the discussion agenda. The approval of the final plat for 82 lot zone plan development, case 1761. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I just clarify that if there's no action taken on this plat this evening, it could be automatically approved within 30 days, regardless if the P&Z takes action on it,
Okay.
under state law?
All right, since we don't have a second, what's our next, how do we proceed from there? then no one to second the motion.
I would consider a separate motion for, to entertain.
Okay. Any other motions?
But you said we can't make a motion to deny this, correct?
The Planning and Zoning Commission has 3 options when it comes to a plat. You can either approve the plat without any conditions, approve the plat with conditions, but you have to identify a provision of the UDO that the plat doesn't comply with, even for the conditions of approval. You have to say it doesn't comply with whatever section. And if you're going to deny it, you have to deny for reasons, and those have to be in writing, and they have to be articulated, stating what this plat doesn't comply with. And the questions that you're asking are, I'm just gonna give the answer. The questions that you're asking are relating to the construction plans and not to the drawing. The drawing shows that all the lots meet minimum lot width, and the staff has said that the plat complies with the preliminary plat that's already been approved. There's a process in the UDO to allow final plats that have been changed from the preliminary plat to proceed if they're minor changes. And the criteria that the staff uses in determining whether or not they're minor changes if the number of lots are the same. So they're the same number of lots that were approved with the preliminary plat. So what you're looking at is making sure that the roads are the right size, the easements are the right width.
That's correct.
All of the,
That's what's in question, is the easement changed.
well, but the town staff is saying that the drainage plans that were submitted with the construction plans, which aren't part of the final plat, have already been reviewed and comply with what's called the design standards, like construction design standards that the town council has adopted.
Okay,
So if they comply with those criteria, the town staff is compelled to recommend approval of them.
I understand everything you just said. But what I'm trying to understand is, if they did all their research when they created the initial proposed construction plat that was presented on this project, how did it go on this area right here from a ½ acre was required in their eyes? In their opinion, they needed a ½ acre to detain the same water that's gonna come here that you're saying is gonna come, or that the town staff is saying is gonna come here, but that they no longer require that ½ acre of water to be slowed in any way, shape, or form. Originally, it was required. Somehow the calculations and math changed, is what I'm saying, where when they start, I watched it happen. I watched it in real time as they started building this. And the detention acre that they built was, as it looked like to me, a reaction construction changed, not a preliminary action. It was a reaction. So now what I'm saying is, I want 100% clarity of why that water that's going to be detained in the private detention easement, 500 feet of a private property homeowner who doesn't even know, who's going to buy that lot, that is going to run through, is going to have that much water running underneath their property and above it, and have no idea as well where that PDE goes. How can you change, I just would like to understand that. I would like, if town staff, I just want to know where the numbers were calculated. They said, hey, we no longer need this ½ acre detention pond. It's just what I want to know. I want to know where that came from.
You know, I can only answer the legal questions, and the law is that if the final plat that is submitted meets all development regulations, then the Planning and Zoning Commission have to approve it. So you're just looking at the map here, and I know there's an easement on this lot, lot 6X, I believe you're pointing to, is that right?
Yes.
So you're just approving this map.
I understand, but the
Actually.
map isn't correct. It says, if the map was correct, this is why I'm trying to get everyone to see. Nowhere from where it says 6X, 2.679 acres, does it say detention area of any kind. There is a drain that is emptying into green space where nowhere did they label detention area easement. It's not labeled. So under those grounds, we shouldn't have to approve this because it's mislabeled.
Does have, I'm not sure I'm following what you're talking about. It does say detention area easement
No,
on there.
that's the dotted line, 1.33 acres. This
Right.
is what they did, but this is where the water is gonna come out, right here. There's no detention easement here.
Is this a appropriate time for us to move to executive session? If somebody would, or not, is this something we should deal with?
Mr. Chair, if there's a legal question, I can answer that, but if it's
Okay.
just, ask the questions about the drainage.
How do we move past this then? Since the commission will not make a motion? Or approve a motion?
Well,
It-
from a legal standpoint, I'm just asking. You said the plat has to be represented with all the right easements.
Where is the evidence of that?
Well,
Where is like the assessments that have been done or the correspondence of everything passing the requirements?
well, I would defer to the engineering staff and the planning staff in terms of the review of this. As you all know, I'm filling in tonight. So, in determining whether or not this easement depiction on this map is appropriate for the design and the construction of the pond. But as far as the town staff is concerned, they have reviewed this and they are saying that easement, this on lot 6 is
So-
appropriate.
So what they've done is essentially, if I'm reading this right, I think I'm now reading it right, that dashed line that goes through has made the entire 6 acres detention or a drainage easement, correct?
The area shown as detention area easement 1 is the 1.33 acres that's delineated. There's that dash line that kind of runs diagonally across lot 6X.
Yes.
That is where the detention area is. The remainder of lot 6X is open space, but it is not detention.
But is it drainage easement? Is the entire 6X drainage easement?
There's a waters of the U.S. in that area, and that has to be considered a wetlands and left alone. And so, yes, there would be drainage through there because it's the waters of the U.S.
But there's no separate, is there a separate drainage easement line that needs to be represented on here to account for the water that is gonna come through the PDE on the southeastern corner?
Excuse me. What I would say in that regard is open space is generally considered to be, well, let's back up. I don't wanna say something that's inappropriate. There's not normally an easement dedicated for waters of the U.S., but it is functioning as drainage. It has to stay that way in perpetuity because it is waters of the U.S. And the outfall from that 20-foot PDE that you see there on the plan will be graded on that lot to where it drains into that waters of the U.S.
But shouldn't it be labeled as such on this plat? Shouldn't, if water is entering a plat, there has to be an easement for that, correct?
Normally, open spaces are considered to be drainage easements by default, rather than plat an easement across something that's dedicated it's dedicated for other things besides drainage, but it would function as a drainage easement.
Could there be any, this is just a legal question, is there any potential for pollution to, or draining water into a wetlands? That's storm runoff?
I'm gonna defer to staff on the drainage issue, that the question about the pollution, that seems to exceed the scope of the Planning and Zoning Commission's review tonight. That is a whole other issue. You're just looking at the map and comparing it to the preliminary plat that's already been reviewed, knowing that it has changed, that it has been modified. And the staff has determined that's a minor modification, so did not need to go back through the preliminary plat process. That's the required action of the P&Z tonight.
So this does meet the subdivision and development of land policies, correct? Land shall not be subdivided or developed until proper provision has been made for drainage, water, wastewater, transportation, and other facilities required by these regulations. Because right now, all we can see is a pipe that goes to nowhere, where the water is gonna go based on construction diagrams that we haven't been able to see. And that meets that subdivided, developed until proper provision.
Right, the Unified Development Ordinance gives the Planning and Zoning Commission authority to approve final plats. The Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't approve the construction plans. That's correct, right?
Right.
There's the staff that reviews that. So that's the job of the commission tonight, is to review the final plat. And the staff has said that it complies with all regulations, even the one that you pointed out about the drainage regulations. It's this whole, 320 page, the UDO, the ones that apply anyway, and then the criteria, the engineering standards I had up here. That's what else the staff is reviewing.
Are we able to make a motion to recommend further assessment of the area before it gets approved?
Well, again,
Of specifically this gentleman's property? The people that are coming forward with concerns, drainage concerns, there's a lot of that cited throughout the UDO on sketch plans, and as you stated, can we make a recommendation for further assessment of that? And to be properly noted in the, I guess, I know you were saying that the construction plans are consistent with this, so I'm worried that if we pass this, that it's just not gonna get addressed again, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't think anyone else does either.
Excuse me, I'm the developer.
Would you come up and state your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Humberto Johnson Jr. I'm a PE. I'm an engineer just like Lyle here. Address is 8214 West Chester, Suite 900, Dallas, Texas 75225. Again, yes, the final plat and the preliminary plat defer because of that drainage easement that you guys are saying about. The reason why at the first we said we needed it is because when you do preliminary engineering, you're not finite at that point. I'll give you $100 if I can find an engineer that will tell me at a preliminary plat stage if that pond is actually needed. With working with Lyle during the engineering stage, we came to find out that if we actually put a pond there, it actually makes it a worse situation, because it's not about the volume of what you're discharging, it's also about the timing of what you're discharging. And the reason why we don't have a pond there is because of that. I'm trying to get the water from half the site out the door before that pond, proposed pond I'm having to put there, releases its water as well. So in other words, you got 2 trains coming down the road, on the track. I need to get one of them out before they both come. Otherwise, the owner to the east, Paul Van Meter, yes, then in that case, it'll be the worst situation. And mathematically speaking, we have proven that to Lyle, that if we put a pond on the north side and south side, it actually makes it worse. And we have applied and followed the design criteria, state law criteria. Matter of fact, the outfall structure that doesn't go into the pond is about 200 feet away from his property, or the shared property line. So any energy displacement will be done but naturally with the natural ground, because again, this water's US. I can't disturb that unless I want to pay like about $1 million an acre. It's not cheap. But again, the final plat should not change. I think this plat, in my opinion, is correct as an engineer. I'm not sure what else you guys are looking for, but we have proven data that we have worked with Lyle, and we are adhering to all city standards, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Is there anything else specifically you guys are questioning besides that? I mean,
The water on the 20-foot PDE where it butts right up to his property, that's going into the waters of the US. Right there.
Yep.
You're gonna make that go west?
Eventually, naturally, the ground is gonna it goes down into the creek. It kind of goes a little bit northwest, but then eventually it will go to Paul Van Meter's, property. I didn't do that. God did that. That's just the way it flows naturally.
You said that you're creating this pipe.
I'm putting this pipe in the ground, yes, but the outfall structure, I'm not changing the drainage pattern. I cannot do that legally.
Well, how big's the outflow pipe gonna be where this water?
That one right there, I believe was a 21 or a 24 inch pipe. 27. No, it's 27-inch pipe. I know from west or left and right, it's about 200 feet, 220 feet away from his property, and this will naturally go into the creek, which then will flow into his property.
Is there gonna be is it just gonna be going straight to dirt, or are you gonna have
There's gonna be rock riprap. The velocities, there's no scouring velocities anywhere, so for vegetation to take root, that will happen. Right now, like for instance, the biggest pipe there is a 54-inch. Well, in reality, if you look at the design on that, I actually need like a 42 or 40-inch pipe. However, we oversized that pipe to slow the velocity down to about a 7.5 feet per second. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lyle. So it's not scouring. And I also have to keep that minimum velocity up about above 5 feet per second, because if it's any lower than that, then it's gonna be sedimentation in the pond, or I'm sorry, sedimentation in the pipe, which then, maintenance issue down the road. So we looked at it in every respect, how much we're discharging, the velocity we're discharging. We put the appropriate rock riprap there. We've been working with Paul Van Meter. We actually installed erosion control measures on his property. I did not have to do that. Legally speaking, I am well within my SWIP criteria on my site. I mean, I'm not violating any state law. We actually, being a good neighbor, we actually went over and helped him out on some of his concerns. But yes, I don't see what else we could do. I mean, we're adhering to your design manual. I don't think there's anything else we could change at the moment. Does that answer your question, sir? Sorry.
Well, I just have personal experience with a drainage pipe that someone stuck on my property that's whatever sized. I can tell you, it's 36 inches, that shoots
Correct.
out. And I have 10 acres of drainage that I see on a rainfall basis. And I am confident in saying your 24-inch pipe will blow all that riprap completely gone, and all of the water will make a giant hole.
No,
I've
sir,
seen it
that's, I don't believe that's correct. The velocities there are around 7 feet per second. Your manual actually has I can't remember off the top of my head what the maximum velocity is, but I want to say it's above a 10 feet per second. That release right there, I could show you 100 projects where I have the same velocity and it does not do that.
I hope it works.
Yes, I mean, that open space is maintained by the HOA. So if there's any future maintenance, it's gonna be on the HOA to maintain.
Right, and 3 or 4 of us are a part of that HOA.
I don't know, it's the city as well is still gonna get the phone call. That's why me and Lyle specifically, not only was it black and white, but we did look at from the HOA point of view, looked at from Paul Vabner's point of view. It wasn't just my way or the highway, let's just put it that way.
So, sir, are you saying that at this point, well, let's say if you had it to do all over again, you wouldn't make any changes?
No, sir, I
It
not
would
make
be
any-
like you've designed it?
The way it is designed is the way we would do it again and over again.
Right. Can someone show me where it is on this schematic?
Like the location we're talking about, or
Yes.
it's on the middle of the east side, east property line.
Should be right around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
This land actually was sitting there for a while because, quite frankly, no one else could figure it out because it was a sewer issue. My job at Scoreboard Company is to take a piece of land, take it apart, figure out what's wrong with it, put a cost to it, plus the improvements. That's my specialty is I'm able to finite in detail what does it take to develop. That's the reason why I'm assuming others didn't want to do it is because they're like, oh, well, we can't get sewer to it. Well, you can. It just takes, patience and a lot of hard work to figure out how it all works. But yes, I mean, I think we've done by the design manual in black and white and also went above and beyond.
Any other questions?
Does that answer your answer? sir?
Yes, it
Sorry.
does. Thank you very much. I think, Mr. Chairman, my questions have been asked, and, I think that the explanation was good, and I understand it a lot better now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Should we try this again? Anybody make a motion?
There's a motion on the floor, right?
Yeah, I guess that's right. My motion's on the floor. My motion was to approve this final plat. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor? Vote.
Got 3.
3. All opposed? No opposition votes, 2 abstentions. Does that mean it passes, or do we have to have 4 to make it pass?
I believe 3 would be required to pass. As far as the voting situation goes, would they need to abstain in this position, or would it just
Would abstain.
unrecorded?
You just want to, Mr. Chair, you just want to state it on the record that you're abstaining from voting?
Okay.
I'm abstaining from voting on this one.
I'm abstaining from voting as well.
So we have 3 votes in favor and 2 abstentions and no negative votes. So the motion to approve the final plat is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's Let's move on to agenda item number 3. And this is case 1760. It's a special use purpose express car wash application. Would you, town, please present that?
Good evening, Commissioners. The subject property and the proposal for you tonight is located at 2650 Beltline Road, a previous portion of the 2600 Beltline Road, consisting of roughly 1.5 acres. It's currently zoned local retail. The property is vacant. The owner is requesting a special use permit to allow for a self-service car wash and automated drive-through assisted by employees with self-service vacuum spaces for its customers. Surrounding this location is local retail zoning. To the north is a vacant parcel and the Salons Elite. To the west are other businesses including office space and the veterinarian clinic. Surrounding the remainder of the parcel is vacant land zoned for local retail, and about roughly 280 feet to the east is residential. Also with this SUP, the applicant is requesting an alternative to the landscape requirements. On the left side of this property is a 20-foot North Texas Municipal Water District easement. 15 of that 20-foot buffer is within their landscape buffer on the site. The applicant is requesting that 6 of the required 13 shade trees along Beltline Road frontage be allowed planted interior to the site on the north side of the property between the vacuum spaces and the abutting land to the north. Staff has distributed letters to each property owner within 200 feet of the subject property and has received no formal responses. There has been responses from others, and those have been presented to y'all. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, is the applicant here tonight? Would you like to come forward and tell us your name and address and tell us why you want to build a car wash here?
Good evening. My name's Michael Doggett. I'm with Kimley Horn. My address is 260 East Davis Street, Suite 100 in McKinney, Texas. And I am the civil engineer for this project, representing, as the applicant, representing the owner. Is that me?
No, you're fine.
I'm back here.
Mm-mm.
Be happy to answer any questions you guys have specifically. Otherwise, I appreciate Philip's presentation and respectfully request your approval.
I just had a couple questions just on how this, making sure I'm understanding the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the dark horizontal line. That's like a drive through the property, and you have the vacuums on the north and on the south side of that.
Yes, sir.
Is
The
that-
dark area is actually a fire lane
Okay.
that the fire marshal had asked us to put in that location. The configuration or the flow of traffic moves on the south side of the building through pay lanes and then goes through the tunnel. The north side of the site is where the vacuum spaces are located. So you exit the tunnel, make a right to the north, and then park up there in the vacuum spaces.
I see. I thought I saw something, and I heard something about it being self-serve as well, self-serve car wash, or is it just?
So the UDO's definition makes it as a self-service car wash. Any automated drive-through car wash is regulated as self-service.
Okay, but this isn't going to be a car wash where you get out with your
No.
the hose and spray it down.
No, there's no spray or pressure washer system.
Okay. Turn on your mic. You can't hear.
Never mind. I see it.
All right. Do anybody on the commission have any questions for the applicant? Or no?
Can you explain to me, sorry, what the landscape change was?
Sure. Or Philip,
Or Philip can, sorry.
I can do that.
Yep.
So along the Beltline frontage, they are required 13 shade trees planted. I believe it's one tree per every 1,000 square feet of landscape buffer area along that frontage. which requires them to plant 3 or 13. And then with the, there's an easement directly along Beltline there in front of the sidewalk. And they have proposed that they plant some of their trees that are required on the north side up there where the cursor is now, basically to not interfere with that water easement there.
We're not allowed to plant in that easement.
Yeah.
So it looks like seven of the trees will be along the Beltline Road, and then 6 along the northern part of the property.
Yes, sir.
And then we've added some as well on the south of the building as well.
Yes.
Is the sidewalk already there, or is that something you will be
It's-
putting in?
It's new.
Okay. Does the commission have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Just, we'll now open this for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please come forward and state your name and address on the record.
I'm Carol Inman, 2718 North Beltline Road. We're actually on Salons Elite. So we are just to the north of this property. Somewhere you've got us, somewhere where you can kind of see us on one of the other slides.
Yes.
But actually, we're sitting there, and all around us, a church owns. In between that right there, the top side of that, and us, there is a entrance we had to build that will be the entrance that will go beside us, behind us, for the church to access behind us. There is a tree line on there. I don't know who actually owns that tree line and what will happen with that, if that's actually gonna be the church property, if the tree line's something they're going to take out. But when we built, we had to have bushes all along our side there, so any of our parking spot lights, our cars in those parking spots there would not shine onto that street that will be built in there. So we had to put bushes all down the side. So for them, we will directly past our bushes, their lights will be shining straight onto that if that tree line ever ceases to exist. So they'll have their lights shining straight into that street they made us block, because he does have trees there, but they have no bush line to take care of any of that. So I don't know if they can answer any of that as to, is the tree line whose?
Certainly, you can come answer that.
The tree line itself, I believe the tree line, we surveyed the property, is on the northern property limits. We're not intending on taking out, even if it's on our site, we have no intention of removing it.
Well, when they go to build that, because you can see now, you can see that little vacant strip of land. We had to build our entrance in and stop it right there so they can continue it around us. You can see also we've got another entrance out of our parking lot up there you can barely see coming into it. So if they go and they take that tree line out as they're building, then the same thing will be happening. You won't have any bushes to have all of your lights, you know, from parking there in the bays, doing your cleanup or whatever. All those lights will be shining right on to where we had to screen.
Certainly. The UDO does require that any parking or mutual access or any drives or parking that abut a landscape buffer do require that a screening of shrubs be there. If you look back at the landscape plan, everything that is abutting here on that north side, abutting that landscape buffer does have that. If this is something that the council wants to consider, or not the council, but the commissioners want to consider and recommend that, you know, this be done before going to council, that can certainly be done with y'all's motion. But it is not required by the UDO currently.
Okay, well, what I'm talking about is like where all the trees are, all the way across there. We had to put bushes down our whole side in front of any parking areas.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, the landscape buffer on that north side is 10 feet when adjacent to another non-residential property. They exceed more than that 20 or more than that 10 feet there, and they are not directly up against that, and therefore I would consider it not abutting the landscape buffer.
Philip, when was the Elite Salon built?
We've probably been here approximately 5 years,
Before 2017?
about that time.
So was her safe to say her property was built before the UDO went into effect?
Oh, no, we had plenty of stuff to do. Plenty of plants and trees and bushes, so there was everything I would think in place.
So the current UDO went into effect in 2018. I do not know for a fact when the Salons Elite currently was built and that site plan was reviewed. If it was before the 2018 revisions, then it would have been underneath the previous UDO.
Thank you.
But this currently meets the current UDO, and in addition, there's at least some footage of shrubs put in from Beltline East that are not required, but the applicant is
So
installing.
everything that is required by the UDO has been planted here. The fire lane that extends over there, it does abut that landscape buffer as well as the parking on that side, and so that has been screened by by those shrubs.
If I can just interject, if we need to add a row of shrubs behind the parking spaces that face north, south of those trees, we're willing to do that. We can do that to Peace Salon.
Okay.
Well, that's, I mean, because the park, eventually, at some point, when the church builds, there will be the
they'll
street
have
in
to take that
between
out.
there.
So that, are you saying that's gonna be a long driveway
It'll be
into
a
the
long
church?
drive, and we had to build the entrance in, we had to build another entrance here
Yeah.
for it,
Right.
so it's all set up, it's just whenever the church builds, there will be a street between us.
Understood.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what I mean, most people don't realize that by just looking at what you see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
So we can add that before council too, if you guys want to put it in there that we, condition that we add a row of shrubs.
essentially extend the shrubs that you already have all the way?
Correct, yeah.
Down the
just
le- down
extend
the
them
length.
Across the headlight screening shrubs in front of
Okay.
those spaces, we can definitely do that, and accommodate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Yolanda Washington. I live in 221 Sunray Lane. I'm in, Beltline and Trip Row, and I wasn't aware of a car wash, and I'm glad that my neighbor called me and told me about it because nobody asked me, and I'm worried about the traffic, I'm worried about the crime. I have a 4-year-old kid, and I'm planning to have more, and I moved to Sunnyvale because it's a safe community. The traffic, I've been here for 7 years. It was a great community when I moved in. It was just so calm and everything, and now I see that there's more traffic, and I believe this will bring more traffic to my area, and I'm so close. They're behind me, and I'm just worried, like, why I wasn't aware, or who approved that the car wash? I mean, I just don't know. Well, can you
Well,
answer
at this
that?
point, that's what's before the council right now, but in terms of approval, notices should have gone out to, I forget if it's within 100 feet, or what's the
I did not receive any
State law
notice.
requires 200 feet.
200 feet?
That blue ring around the map shown there shows the notice area.
I didn't receive any notice. I live in 221 Sunray Lane, behind that area.
Right, and what the town is saying, if you can see that light blue rounded square,
Mm-hmm.
that's the 200-foot line, and there are no, looks
So
like those houses over there aren't within that
That's my
200.
point. So there
Right.
was nobody.
Right.
So it was approved. So I live, I guess, far away, but I don't think it's safe for the community, Sunnyvale. And I have a lot of neighbors, and they were not able to come, but they want to see if they can vote against it, and if there's any way we can do that.
No, I don't believe that's an item that you, this is an item that the Planning and Zoning Commission is voting on tonight.
So it's just planning, so how can we say
Well, what
no?
happens is if we approve this or deny it, it'll go to the council, and then the council.
So you're not approving or denying anything, you're giving a recommendation to
We're making
council.
a recommendation, right. We're making a recommendation to the council to approve it or to deny it.
So when,
And then it will come before the council, whatever our recommendation is, it'll go before the council, and then the council will make the ultimate decision on whether to approve or deny it.
and what, as neighbors, what can we do to say no to this
Well, you can certainly come to a council meetings.
council meeting?
I believe that I would think they would have a public comment session as well.
There will in fact be a public hearing at the town council level as well.
When is that date?
This is projected to be on the November 14th meeting.
November 14th. So November 14th, if I could gather all my neighbors, we can come and talk to you guys? Okay.
Well, we are not the town council. The town council will be here then, and then.
And you guys are not gonna be here when the council is gonna be here?
We're not, certainly not required to be here. I don't know if
So
anybody
you're
will
not
be here.
required, so you don't wanna come, or? Because you can come like me and sit down over here, but. I guess, but I mean, I really don't think it's safe. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a good idea to have a car wash?
We're here taking public comments, and we're listening to the public and taking the feedback from then we will have a vote on whether to recommend approval or denial of the matter.
So you said November 14, you said the date?
Yes, that's the projected date for the town council meeting, the first reading of the ordinance that this would be.
Okay, thank you. That was
Thank you.
all.
And that is at 7 p.m.
Would anybody else like to make a public comment? Seeing no other public comments, we'll close that. At this point, Commission, do you have any additional questions for the applicant or town staff? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll just address the traffic. I understand people, and I want to give the message, yes, I understand the traffic, it's Beltline. The traffic's been on Beltline like that for over 25 years. I'm just telling you, I've lived here my whole life. And then, as the owner of Elite Salon said, there's going to be another church right there, and anyone who's familiar with Beltline, you're going to get a lot of traffic on Sunday. It's usually Wednesday too. But I don't think that the traffic for the car wash is going to be nearly as congested as what you're going to have to deal with all the churches. But Beltline is, with Derek's development going on down the street, that traffic for that's going to have nothing on this little car wash.
All right.
I make a motion to recommend approval to town council on case 1760.
Do we have a second?
Also, if you want to add in the fact that, they add the row of shrubs on the north side.
On the with the condition that they add in the row of shrubs on the north side as discussed
Okay.
in today's meeting.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? And it looks like the motion to recommend approval will pass on a 3-2 vote. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 4.
Just 1 second, please.
Okay.
Here we are. Good evening. The town's existing future land use plan was adopted as part of the town's comprehensive plan in 2017. This is the comprehensive plan and future land use plan are separate from zoning districts. The purpose of the comprehensive plan is, and the future land use plan is to provide general guidance on broad goals and directions for future development in the town. Zoning decisions should be guided by the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, and the zoning provides more specific tools to regulate that development. As you know, the town is currently considering a request to rezone approximately 38 acres on the southeast corner of Long Creek Road and Highway 80 frontage. As part of the request, the town has been asked to review the appropriateness of the town's comprehensive plan and specifically the future land use plan's designation of this area as medium-density residential. The current property owner and a proposed developer believe the site is more suitable for commercial and would fall under the employment commercial use category on the future land use plan. The specific zoning request is the subject of a separate agenda item, but staff would recommend considering an amendment to the comprehensive plan and future land use plan prior to considering the specific development request. The comprehensive plan describes the medium-density residential use designation on the future land use plan as being a transition zone between large lots, single-family neighborhoods, and commercial development, with land on the other side of the existing open space and floodplain. I think staff believes that there's more than enough buffer for the properties along Larkin Road. The comprehensive plan describes the employment commercial designation of the future land use plan as being representative of the commercial and office use that provide employment opportunities. These uses are most suitable along the US Highway 80 corridor. As discussed, this property does front that US Highway 80 corridor. In reviewing alternative land use designations for the future land use plan, staff does not believe that the additional residential development is appropriate in this area, given the property is cut off from any other town right-of-way except for that US Highway 80. Another consideration for determining future land uses is the current land uses in proximity to the area around and along that same corridor. To the west of the site and at the corner of Long Creek Road and US Highway 80, the properties are zoned highway commercial. South are properties zoned SF4 but are cut off from accessibility due to the existing floodplain. And east is a property fronting US Highway 80 with SF3 and SF4 zoning districts. North of the property is, more Highway 80 and land zoned highway commercial. Based on the land use categories in the comprehensive plan, adjacent land uses and site limitations, staff agrees that the most appropriate designation is employment commercial.
And this is presented by staff, so we don't have somebody to call forward, correct?
No, sir.
And this, is this,
It is a public hearing.
so this is appropriate to open, for me to ask you some questions first, or go ahead and open it?
Certainly, you can ask me questions
Okay.
before you open public hearing.
On this map, what are we looking at? Is it the one in the middle okay, and that's showing it as it's already been changed?
This portion this is showing it as what would be amended.
Okay.
The current designation cuts off directly at you see where the right angle is at the north portion there. It goes directly across currently and has single family 4. Or not single family 4, but medium density residential.
I see.
What's the difference between this and what we approved previously?
So this one actually does not approach into that floodplain open space there. After staff looking back at it and looking at the legal meets and bounds of the tracks, there is a difference there. Due to due process and the change of uses between here and between council's first reading and second on the PD previously, due to due process, we needed to renotice and restart this process. So that's why we're coming back today.
So nothing's changing with the residential, still zoned, that area was the medium residential, stays the way it was, correct?
So what's changing from previously is the area where my cursor is now was previously marked on the future land use plan as medium density residential. There's 8.8 acres there roughly, and that is that legal description is described within the PD as well. So it used to cut directly across from the So this was withdrawn at the town council meeting, so it was, so that's why we're having to go back through this process again.
So are we tweaking something that we have approved before, more or less?
It's essentially what has happened since what y'all approved previously that was withdrawn was that they are not encroaching into that floodplain open space for the future land use map, as far as that change goes.
So just shortened it? Or
Yes.
Okay.
And this is all the Pecan Ridge?
Yes.
Essentially, okay. Any other questions for staff before we open it? Okay, as this is a public hearing, we'll open it. See if there's any public interested in commenting. Please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close that. And at this point, any more comments or questions from the commission? If not, we'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve this request.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh,
Okay, all in
Second.
favor? All right, the approval to recommend this change has been passed 5-0.
King Moss and then Ted Mays.
Okay, I think it's, let's move to agenda number 5, item number 5.
Yes, sir. Alrighty. The request before you tonight is for the property located at 536 Long Creek Road and 600 US Highway 80 and consists of roughly 38 acres. The property is partially zoned highway commercial from the northern property line to roughly 700 feet back, and the southern portion of the property is zoned single family 4. The applicant's current request to rezone the property is to essentially create a highway commercial and SF4 district currently to a planned development with 3 sub-districts. The 3 sub-districts being requested are are a base of highway commercial and single family 4. Along that are highway commercial tract 3. So if you go down, keep going. Do one more. So tract 3, the sub-district would be applicable to the north portion of the property as shown in the exhibit attached. In this sub-district, the applicant is requesting that the following uses be allowed by right. Indoor boat storage, brewery and distillery, bulk materials sales and storage, contractor shop, contractor storage yard, future repair and upholstering shop, gym or health fitness center, self-storage security mini warehouse, indoor vehicle storage facility, warehouse, and woodworking and planing mill. The applicant is also requesting that the following be allowed to be permitted with a special use permit to be reviewed by the town council at a later date. That would be food processing and storage, research and scientific laboratory, and a winery. If y'all have any questions about any of these, let me get through each tract and then we'll address that. The highway commercial tract 1 sub-district would be applicable to that 8.8 acres that's currently zoned for single family 4 that they're wanting to extend to that highway commercial base zoning. In this sub-district, the uses that would be allowed would be everything typically allowed within the general highway commercial zoning district as amended. In addition to these uses described in tract 3 sub-district, the following are being requested by the applicant to be allowed by right. Outdoor boat storage and outdoor vehicle storage facility. The self-security and mini warehouse to allow for the storage of personal goods in spaces up to 8,000 square feet in size. The applicant is also requesting that these units be accessible from the exterior of the building with roll-up sectional or counterweight doors. Currently, this use only allows for units at and below 1,000 square feet. And access through interior corridors. As far as the tract 2, that is currently zoned SF4 and would remain as such, and all that they're asking for this portion is that at a later date they could come back and request an SUP for a riding academy or equestrian center. The warehouses of this, if y'all have any questions regarding those and want me to point out any specifics, go ahead and do that now. Make sure we're all on the same page.
Any questions?
Again, isn't this along the same line that we reviewed?
Yes, sir. So what happened was, in between the first and second reading of council, they had changed some uses to more intense uses and basically re-triggered the public notice. And so what was recommended to us is that we bring it back to P&Z and council, and basically starting anew in order for y'all to give y'all's recommendation to council with these uses and allow for a public hearing at the P&Z level again.
Can you point those differences out to us?
So yes, so the differences between all of these now are the uses that I have pointed out. Previously, what was approved by y'all or recommended for approval was for contractor shops, warehouses, and contractor storage yard. Now what has come forward is what you see here for track 3, as well as for track 1 and for track 2.
So, I don't know, go back to the previous slide, okay, that number 1, permitted by right. Are you saying that all of that would, or that's just a possibility that they could add those?
So that's a possibility that they could add those. It would be allowed by right, essentially. So it would still need to come back for staff approval as far as the site plan goes.
And that's in addition to what they already have?
So that's an addition, no, so there was never
Or
a
is this-
zoning
is
case
this
that actually.
brand new?
Yes, this is brand new, essentially.
So that nice little chart we just saw, that doesn't apply anymore, is that correct? With all those, remember all those storage sheds and warehouses and stuff there? I mean, go
Yes,
back to the
so-
previous slide.
So they withdrew the application due to the recommendation that we go through the process again for, the increased intensity of these uses.
So that does not apply anymore?
That is still the concept plan, yes, sir.
The concept does apply?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the same layout and everything, they're just adding a different use. They're adding different uses in there from what was previously.
Using that same plan?
Yes.
Can you go back to the slide, and which of these permitted by right were in the previous version that we looked at?
So in the previous version, there was contractor shop, contractor storage yard, and warehouse that was included.
So they're adding several more.
Yes.
And then were there any special use permissions?
So the
I don't remember.
the number 2 there, permitted with a special use permit, they would have to come back at a later date and get SUP from y'all.
Right, but are these all new? Or did we, or were those?
Those
in
are
our-
all new,
Okay.
yes.
Just those three, just those 3 issues, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions for staff before we call up the applicant?
So I still want to
I
go
know, I
through
just kinda
the
feel
rest of the
like-
presentation. I was just making sure that everybody was on the same page
Oh.
as far as how these tracks are laid out in the sub-districts within
Okay.
the PD itself.
All right.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. The differences between what y'all had approved previously, after talking further with the applicant, are these uses here, as well as, the self-storage security mini warehouse would allow for 8,000 square feet, and to be accessible from, the exterior by roll-up, sectional, or counterweight doors. And then also for, the addition of boat storage, they are allowed, if you go down to tract 1 here, they are allowed outdoor boat storage and outdoor vehicle storage facilities in that section there. The grade change from the right-of-way to the edge of tract 1 there, as we see it, is pretty significant, and it drops off past that point. Any outdoor storage back there would have to be required to be screened by 8-foot board-on-board cedar planks, and also covered as well. for any vehicle or boat storage out there that
It
would
would
be
have to be
outdoor.
covered storage?
Yes. It would have to be covered and screened by, screen,
Okay, and this wasn't in our last version either, right?
no, sir.
Okay.
So, go to, keep up. Keep going. Let's see. So also what staff and the applicant have come into conclusion with is that for that first building there, they are going to be required to, meet the depth and height articulations for that new building closest to the frontage. Like we discussed previously, the building would also be required to be constructed out of 90% masonry on all sides visible to the public. So that would include your south, west, or north, west, and east portions of the building. As we discussed, there is that shared parking of 28 spaces for that development there for the office space as well as the existing buildings on the lot. Let's see. As we discussed, there was that, for any outdoor storage, there would be a requirement for a screening fence at a minimum height of 8 feet, board-on-board cedar planks to be stained every 3 years, or an alternative substitution to be approved by staff of equal or greater quality of screening. And that would be determined at site plan. Anything that goes within the tract 1 there would be required to be looked at with a visibility study essentially, and made sure that it can't be seen from town right of way. Any sort of outdoor storage.
The covered outdoor storage, right?
Yes, yes. So they are still allowed outdoor storage within the front portion of the property. It cannot be for vehicles or boats. And that would include their backyard sections that on the backside of those buildings. Another thing that has changed is the bulk material sales and storage use. They would be allowed for the sale of granite, marble, quartz, quartzite, onyx, and travertine, all of which are just used in the construction of kitchen countertops. And the food processing and storage would allow for the processing and storage of honey and coffee only.
Of what?
Honey and coffee.
Is that the food storage?
Yes, for food storage and processing. So they could also have like a roastery there or something similar to that for the coffee.
So the food storage would be honey and what did you say?
Honey and coffee.
And the processing is,
That would just include those two specific uses
okay,
for honey and coffee.
whatever that is.
So as discussed in that track 2 portion there, they would be allowed for that Riding Academy Equestrian Center. Currently, it is allowed in SF1 and SF2 zoning districts by SUP. Seeing that this lot exceeds the recommended minimum for size as far as SF1 and SF2 goes, the staff feels that would be perfectly fine to look at for an SUP and for them to come back at a later date for y'all's recommendation and approval from council.
Is the applicant the same? as
Yes, sir.
last
The
time?
applicant is still Derek Salzer.
Derek didn't present this last time.
No, he was out of town, I believe.
We get to have Derek give
are you
his song and dance presentation. That's always fun to experience.
Certainly, and if y'all have any other questions regarding the AIR, y'all can ask them for me now, or invite the applicant up to speak as well, or proceed
I think
forward.
we'll call up the applicant. Or both of them. Please state your name and addresses for the record.
Derek Salser, 129 North Collins Road, Sunnyvale.
Justin Ruggiano, 140 Brentwood, Heath, Texas.
Right. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, let me explain. We did not want to come back and go through, I disagreed with the town attorney on the request for us to come back through here. What had happened is at the council meeting, the mayor and council approved our request as it was presented with one condition, and that was we, as in Justin, myself, and Ryan, meet with the town staff and come up with a list of all the possible uses that could go on this property. Seemed like a very innocent request at the time. So between the first reading and the second reading, we met with, it was Philip and Burton. Who else was in there? Maybe even Jeff, I'm not sure. And made this exhaustive list of things like the winery and the equestrian center and the brewery and the coffee storage and the honey, and we put a lot of thought into it. We went line by line through every possible use and everything we didn't want in this. And there's a lot of things that are not allowed in this property, which we won't get into those things, but they're not listed in there. So it came the night of the second reading. And right before the meeting, Philip explained to us that, well, the town attorney believes that we made too many changes to the uses and we're gonna have to renotice it and go back through the process. So that is what led us back here tonight. Okay. So it's essentially the same concept, the same concept plan with more thought out uses. And of course, we had to agree to more things. One thing you'll see as a common theme through this is screen from view of town right-of-way and adjacent properties. That is screening everywhere now on the property, from storage yards to vehicles, etc., which was which we agreed with. And I think the previous agenda item was just a matter of the line was drawn in the wrong place on the map. But basically, it's the same concept as we were presenting before.
Okay, thank you.
And I can take questions about specific uses.
Okay.
And we put thought into each one of them. And I'm proud to say the town staff and us agreed on all of them. And their recommendation is for approval.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicants?
Yeah, Derek, where were you the first time, so we could have got all this knocked out?
You're gonna like this. I was in a hotel room in Lubbock, Texas.
I figured you were at a football game.
Not relevant where I was.
All right. Any additional questions for the applicants? Okay.
I do not recall the last time if we discussed the vehicle storage and what was the plans on that?
Let me address that.
I don't know if we specifically discussed vehicle storage. All these are already on either SUP or already permitted uses.
But is that planned right now, or do you plan that, or is it?
We don't have any plans for vehicles.
You don't have any plans, okay.
At the moment, no, but the back half of the property there, I forget what zone it is now. That's one thing that changed too. Now this thing's zoned into three or four pieces, based on, or sectioned into 3 or 4 pieces. That back section there could have a vehicle storage facility.
But at this point, it's not.
It's not planned at the moment.
Okay.
That was
Only-
part of coming up with all the possibilities
Yes.
that you wanted to put on the list. Okay.
Which we think there's a need for that. Like the Premier Park Place in Rockwall, that's what it would be patterned after on I-30, if you've seen that facility with motor coaches and cars and RVs and boats and things inside a building. Things that our HOAs won't let us put it on our streets.
Right. Any additional questions for the applicants? Okay, thank you. As this is a public hearing, we'll open this to the public right now. Anybody? All right. Please state your name and address for the record.
Afifi Habashi, 400 Long Creek, Sunnyvale, Texas. Is any traffic study due to this project? Is 38 acre. Long Creek is 1 lane road. Is any traffic study done for this project to be?
Has there been a traffic study?
Yes,
I don't.
is not required.
Lyle, if you would like to chime in.
Huh?
There's no TIA that has been done. No, sir.
That's correct. Philip's statement is correct. There has been no TIA done, and we do not anticipate requiring one for this type of development. We do not feel that it'll generate enough additional traffic on town streets to warrant that.
So you don't need it for now?
I beg your pardon, sir?
I say you don't need a traffic study, you don't need TIA?
Not for this particular development, no, sir.
Because if you drive in Long Creek, you will see how it's look, you know.
Is the primary focus of this road, isn't it off the service road of 80? And then that'll then enter into a private drive that only accessible into the property?
I would agree that that's the primary access to the property, off the Highway 80 frontage road, which of course obviously is under TxDOT's jurisdiction, and that area will be reconstructed as part of the upcoming project along US Highway 80.
That area is terrible during evening rush hour. You know, and
Under
it
the
starts
current-
off 2 lane, then it bottlenecks to 1.
Under the current layout, I agree it's less than ideal. It will be upgraded, like I said, whenever TxDOT reconstructs Highway 80, which they intend to let that for construction next year, 2023. And when it's all done, that road will be much better than the way it is now.
Yeah. I just say that, Derek, y'all need to, you know, if you're not familiar with how bad it gets during the day and at rush hour, y'all may need to look at it so you can, you know, I don't know if we need to make any changes or what, but, you know, I'd be hard pressed to get on that during rush hour and try to get off, because you got cars getting off 80 and, you know, crossing over the medians and everything else getting in there. So it's worth looking at.
Random question, Lyle, are they gonna tear out our bridge on Collins when they do the 80 expansion?
You say on Collins?
Yeah.
No, the existing overpass on Collins Road, when that was reconstructed a number of years ago, it was planned to be incorporated into the overall Highway 80 project. So the Collins Road overpass would not be reconstructed. I don't think this has any impact on this particular development, but to answer your question, no, it would not be removed.
Okay, thank you. Any additional public comments? If not, then we'll close the public comment. Do you want to add something else? Can I respond? Sure. I was going to ask about Long Creek. So.
Our uses are very low impact. A sports athletic complex definitely needs a traffic study. But for small little shop spaces, I agree with the town engineer on that. The town fire chief did require that we create a fire lane. Our main entrance is off of the service road of 80, as you know. But then there is a fire lane, concrete fire lane, that goes and loops through some of the buildings there and ends up on Long Creek. You can kind of see it there.
Right.
But that is just one way in and out, and that at least gets you back to where you can head back to the west and not have to get on the service road like King was mentioning.
So even though it's a fire lane, it will be open for public
Yeah.
access to Long Creek. Okay. So people can go west on Long Creek, and then they could also turn back east and get back on the service road.
Yeah, and that was the fire chief's requirement, and I think it was probably a public safety
Right.
more than it was our convenience.
Okay. Thank you. As we've closed the public comment, commissioners, do you have any additional questions for staff or applicants? Seeing no more additional questions, do we have a motion?
make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor? The recommendation is approved, 5-0, and so that has passed and it will be forwarded to the council. Thank you. And I do believe that's all the business we have tonight, so if we have a motion to close the meeting, we'll close this up.
I make a motion that we close the meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? 5-0, and we have closed the meeting. Thank you.